Hey, A to Z English Podcast listeners, it's Jack here. And we just want to announce that we are now on WeChat. Our WeChat ID is A to Z English Podcast. That is A to Z English Podcast. One word, all lowercase. And if you join the group, you'll be able to talk with me, you'll be able to talk with Xochitl, and we can answer your questions. We can read your comments on the podcast. So we'd love for you to join us and be active in our WeChat group. Our WeChat ID is A to Z English Podcast. Thanks. See you on the app. Welcome to the A to Z English Podcast. My name is Jack, and I'm here with my co-host Xochitl. And today we have an interesting topic for you. And Xochitl, I'm going to let you introduce the topic today.
Today we're going to talk about societal pressures and expectations kind of in this upcoming generation, which includes, people my age and younger. And we're going to talk about how I maybe don't want to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I don't know what to say about that, except I guess I've gotten to an age finally where uh once people know, like they ask me how old I am, and once they know, they sometimes ask, do I want to have kids or am I thinking about having kids? And the answer is kind of no. I mean, whenever I hear screaming children, it just it dries my uterus right up, Jack, to the size of a something. I can't really stand the shrill shrieking of joyous children. Just kidding. But
Yeah.
it is really hard, and I just see it as so much responsibility. I admire people who are parents, of course. I know it's really hard. But I just see it as so much responsibility, and it kind of makes me feel like you just never know where things are gonna go. Like a lot of things are kind of out of your control when you have kids, and it's scary because I guess I always go to the darkest, recess of my mind and think, what if someone murdered my kids or,
Mm,
what if my kids murdered someone? And not just that, it's like every decision that you make for the rest of your life will revolve around your kids. And even when your kids are adults, you're gonna worry about them every single day, and you're
yep.
gonna like put your energy into them. They'll never stop being your kids.
Oh,
And
I know exactly what you mean. But can I go back a little bit?
oh yeah, Jack, rewind.
Are you offended when people ask you that question?
I don't really care. But I know some people do get offended, and I think that's their right because it's kind of like it's not really anyone's business.
Yeah,
And
it's kind
if
of an inappropriate question in some ways. I feel like.
it's kind of a crazy question because it's like if I wanted kids and could have kids, wouldn't I have them right now? And then
Right. Yes.
it's like, and if I didn't want kids, then why are you asking me? And like, there's just, or if I want kids and couldn't have them, like then we're just about to open a really uncomfortable can of worms, especially if you don't know me super well. Like, what if you
Yeah.
asked me that and I'm on my like fifth round of IVF and we know it's not going to work anymore, and I'm like, I start sobbing my eyes out, and you just ask me, if I want to have kids. You know what I mean? Like, it's just why
Exactly.
I don't get why people ask that, and I can see like if I wanted kids and I had issues conceiving, I would probably be really, I could easily be hurt, and I can see why people would be. It's a weird question to ask.
Yeah, it seems like a kind of a dangerous area to ask questions about, because it's so personal. And and also, do you feel obligated to explain yourself after when you say no? Like, because I feel like just saying no is should be enough, but
Right.
I
Like,
feel like you have to qualify that with like an explanation, and that's I think the crux of today's topic, right? Is this kind of idea that like you have to have kids. Like it's
right.
just and I'm my we were talking about this before the podcast before we started recording. And I told you I mentioned to my daughter, I said, well, I think I told her don't have any kids or something like that, but uh, that's a little harsh, you know. Like, I mean, of course, if she wants to have kids, I hope she has kids, and I would love to be a granddad. But because then you just get to do all the fun stuff, but none of the hard work. Um,
Right. You get to spoil her kids rotten and she has to discipline them.
exactly. I'm looking forward to that. Actually, that's kind of the reward for going through parenting is you get to be a grandparent. But but I just feel like more and more people in your age group are choosing not to have kids and choosing not to get married. Um,
Mm.
Especially women, you know, are just going into the workforce, focusing on their jobs and their careers, and realize that having a kid is also a full-time job by itself. And I know because I've gone through it. My daughter, we're kind of coming out of it on the other end a little bit because my
Mhm.
daughter is now 15, almost 16, so she's basically like a little adult. And you know, all the annoying stuff is done, you know. I mean, it's lovely when they're little and cute, but sometimes it can be like exhausting. You know, I just remember my daughter crying uncontrollably for no reason in about 2 in the morning, and I'm just beside myself. And, you know, lying on the floor on her bedroom or in her bedroom, holding her hand, saying, you know, will you go to sleep if I hold your hand? And then she said, yes, okay. And so I'm holding her hand, and then she finally falls asleep, and then I fall asleep, and I wake up on this hardwood floor and not well rested the next day. And you know, it's tough. Like I just think like having kids, going into it without like thinking about it really and really knowing that you want to be a parent. I think some people just jump into it too quickly. I don't know. Do you think?
Uh, yeah, I totally agree with you. I think actually some of the most responsible people are like end up not having kids because they just
Mhm.
know. I'm not trying to knock anyone who's had kids. I'm sure a lot of people are responsible parents, but I'm just saying that a lot of people who would be responsible parents also just don't end up having kids because they think about everything that has to go into raising a child. You know, it's like a
Mhm.
lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of
Yes.
time, a lot of sacrifices. And I think one of the most common arguments now for children is or for people who don't want to have children is like, "Oh, you're selfish." And it's like, I mean, I think it's more selfish to bring a child into the world when you're not fully prepared to take care of that child. You
Right. Being neglectful, not you know, still trying to live your selfish life because you have to once you have a kid you're it's done. It's not, life is no longer about you.
know?
So
Right.
you know, I know some people that have kids and they still want to live like they don't have kids. And what
Yeah.
happens is either one of the spouses, the husband or the wife, ends up, you know, doing most of the heavy lifting, most of the work, and then resentment grows, and then divorce happens, and those kinds of things. And that's, like you said, way more selfish than just deciding not to have kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I just, you know, I just can't imagine. I just can't. I noticed a lot less people in my generation are having kids. In fact, the next door neighbor here at my aunt's house, she just went to Spain on a girls' trip. She's a doctor, and her mom came over to take care of her cats. And my aunt went over there and to pick something up, I think. And the lady told her, the mom of this doctor was like, "It's funny, we used to take care my parents' generation used to take care of their grandkids, and now I'm taking care of my grand pets, you know?"
Yes, grandpets.
And that's so true. A lot of people are just opting to have pets and not have children because all the responsibility, you can't really leave a young kid alone for that long to go on a summer trip or, you know, just so many factors that make it impossibly hard, especially in today's economy, to have and raise a child.
I think you hit on a big point there. The economic factor is huge. The societal pressure for women to have children is very strong, right? Because we just talked about that. People will just randomly ask you if why don't you have kids? And but what people forget is that like women are discriminated against in the workforce for taking pregnancy leave.
Yep.
They're I don't want to hire a woman who's at that age of around the age that a person would have children because she's going to have to leave for 3 months or 6 months or whatever. Um, there's no free daycare. You have to pay for daycare. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
And you are raising and for the economy, you're providing a future worker but you get no benefits or respect for that. All you get is the pressure to have the kid, but none of the help on the other end. And so that's what kind of makes me angry about the system is that it's very much designed to encourage women to have children, make more workers, but we're not going to consider that a job. We're not going to consider that worthy of any benefits.
Or any
You just do that
compensation.
on your own and you work a full-time job because these days both parents need to work just to make ends meet. So
Right.
so economically, it just doesn't make sense to even have kids. And I think that a lot of people are opting out of having kids and even families because they're like, well, the system is rigged. It's not fair. It doesn't value the children, sorry, the people that raise the children and the women that create the children. So I'm very much if the system changed, then maybe my attitude would change a little bit. But under the current model, I just feel like I totally respect that decision for when people say I don't want to have kids. I'm like, good for you. Like, I think that's a strong choice. It's a hard one to make, but it makes a lot of sense to me.
I'm curious about when you told your daughter, like, don't have kids. You want to expound on that a little bit more? I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, I want her to find her happiness. I don't want her to feel like she has to put her dreams on the back burner um, just because of some like societal norm, like, oh, you're still dancing ballet if she's still dancing ballet at 30 and her career is going well, you don't have to sidetrack yourself to, start a family just because society tells you to. If she wants to, then I totally support it. But I'm not going to be one of the parents that's like, every time I see her at Christmas, start bothering her and nagging her about, when am I gonna get some grandkids? Like I'll never do that. So that was more of where I was coming from when I said don't have kids. I didn't really mean don't have kids. I just said have kids when you want to have kids. And if you don't, it's totally okay.
I'm curious about why that or how that conversation came up.
I can't remember. I don't remember where it might have just been an off the cuff thing that I said to her one day. We're just, we're sometimes she's a teenager. She doesn't like having deep conversations with her dad, or mom. Everything's uncomfortable, right? I think I was driving her to ballet, and I think it kind of hit me in that moment. I'm like, I've got 10 minutes to kind of, she can't run away from me, she has to listen to me. So I just gave her a little lecture right there. It wasn't a lecture. It was just I was trying to be thoughtful about it, but I was just, I just wanted her to know that it's okay. It's just to focus on you and your career and be a strong woman. And it's like there's a lot of pushback on that these days. Women are supposed to be this and men are supposed to be that. And I just think that I feel like some of those foundations are starting to crumble a little bit, and maybe that's why there's a resurgence of this like idea that women need to be traditional but I just reject it fully. I don't believe in that.
Mhm.
I want to raise a strong, independent woman that doesn't need any man to take care of her, doesn't need to be a mother if she doesn't want to. I don't want her to feel any pressure to be anything other than what she wants to be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's admirable. Yeah. My mom is the same way. She got married young. She got married at 24.
Hmm.
Um, and she told us, don't get married young. She always told us that. And I guess we ended up taking it to heart. My sister always wanted to get married young, but now she's 30 and she's not married, and I'm also not married. And I don't want to or plan to get married soon, though people have started asking me.
Yeah, yeah. The
Also,
older
and
generation, the boomers, right? Always ask
yeah,
you. Yeah.
like, I'm not too interested in getting married right away because it takes a long time. And when you get married, you're picking someone that you're going to be tied to for the rest of your life. So you want to make that decision wisely.
Yeah, yeah. I was 30, so I waited, till I knew, when I met my wife, I kind of had an idea, like in English we say an inkling, a little bit of an idea that we're going to end up together forever. I knew it, but we waited a year and a half or so, of dating before we decided to get married. And
Mhm.
in just because it worked out really well in my case, it doesn't mean that doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. Everyone's unique. And so I think some people feel like they're looking at their watch and they're like, "Oh, TikTok, I gotta hurry up and get married." And they just kind of go with somebody that they're not fully um
About.
yeah, I don't know. There might be like red flags, or there might be just certain things that maybe you're not sure about. And if you're not sure, if you hesitate, don't do it, because once you do, you're in it, and and once you have kids, you're forever linked to that person, regardless of whether you stay married or not. So it's a decision not to be taken lightly. It's I think it's a very serious decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, I'm curious what our viewers think, you know, whether they want to have kids, whether they feel the pressure to have kids in their culture, whether they feel pressure to get married, whether they got married young under pressure, had kids young under pressure,
Mhm.
and what their thoughts are about, the coming generation and how things are different now. Or, if you're my generation or younger, what you feel is different about us and how we're growing up versus how our parents were at our age. Yeah, I'm curious. So let us know at a to z englishpodcast.com. Leave us a comment down below. Shoot us an email at a to z englishpodcast at gmail.com, and make sure to join the WeChat and WhatsApp group to talk to Jack and I. And if you guys are interested, make sure to join our English Corner. That's where you can talk to Jack and I on Monday through Friday for an hour. And there are a lot of members in our English Corner now, and we discuss things just like this topic and other interesting and fun topics. And it's really cool. You get to practice your English, and I think everyone really enjoys it. So if you're interested, make sure to shoot us a WeChat, a WhatsApp, or an email, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.